Alright, this was a program I called Best Fit 3D, and the idea of this was that I could take a laser scan and make it more or less into a 3D model easily, because if you see this, this is a laser scan of a robot, and a big robot at that. It probably stood about 10 feet tall. And you can see it's just made up of a whole bunch of little bitty points, just hundreds and thousands of them. So what the idea of the program would do is that it would scan the whole picture, draw lines, and therefore beyond that make the 3D graphic. But it didn't occur to me that this wasn't the correct way to do it. But there's a lot of cool snippets in here that I want to share that maybe you can use in your program. So anyways, I'll show you what I got done on it so far before I realized that this was a dumb idea. So I loaded up this OpenGL using OpenTK, and I have videos on that. I'll link them in the description. But I have a slide bar down here. When I open and close that up, it opens and closes that blue window there on the right side. And then as I move this bigger one, it moves through the image, grabbing all the points. You can see them appearing there in the picture box to the right, and displaying them all that are within that blue cube or blue square appear in there. So then the idea is that I could say define this, define some lines, and this is lines using EMGU CV's hue lines. And this allows me to basically draw lines by the image that I capture here. So when I do a line search, it'll go through, search them all, and find all the possible probable lines that it can find within that 3D graphic. So once it's done, I can show the lines here. You can see that this is all the lines that it generated from all those points. And I guess that was pretty much where I realized, well, how am I going to make a 3D object out of these lines? There's just far too many of them. I guess the idea seemed better in my head when I thought about it, but it still makes this neat little graphic, at least the minimum, right? It looks cool. That, and no, I'm pretty proud of the way that it all kind of came together. So anyways, let me show you the cool snippets that I wanted to share from this program. The setup's real simple. I have a picture box, some vertical sliders. I have a GL control here, and that's kind of part of the OpenGL, OpenTK tutorials I've made already. So if you want to learn more about that, check those in the description. And then EMGU has the hue lines, and that's also a video on that. Also will be in the description. So anyways, I got like an open file dialog, a timer, a tool strip, which is just the open box right here, and another timer. So I made two file types that you can open, an STL and an object file type. So that's cool. There's two 3D methods that I understood enough to write an importer for. So going to our code finally. First thing I'm going to do is import my OpenTK stuff, which is my 3D, and my EMGU stuff, which is my hue lines, the ability to find lines of a bunch of points. So I have a whole lot of stuff here at the beginning for just miscellaneous stuff. Here is all the points, and yeah, that's pretty much the interesting stuff about that. All this right here is to make the interface to the 3D work nicely. And then the grid, which is the picture box to the left, it has some stuff that I wanted to throw in the global. Alright, so upon clicking for file importing, and that is STL and object files, when you click the button at the top, it'll open up the show file dialog. That's if there's nothing already in open. So I pull up a message box that says, are you sure you want to do this? And if you're sure, then it'll, or if you say cancel, then it'll return. If you're sure, it'll continue on to open the dialog. Once the dialog's open, it clears out any thing that was in points, as in the current file we're working at, because points was really, I guess, the only thing that mattered. Oh, yeah, an object count. And we grab all the file names from there, and we actually have the ability to open multiple file names, so you can have actually multiple 3D pieces opened at the same time. I remember I did that because I had like a robot that was broken down into like 10 pieces. So by doing this, I could open up all of them at a time. And that's what object count was, is how many objects I had opened. So continuing on, if it is an STL or an object file, either call the method import STL or import object. And then I made that big bounding blue box and green box by this code right here. It basically looks for the biggest point to grab. And then I would do GL invalidate. And what GL invalidate does is it actually refreshes the 3D image so that it is new. Alright, make that small, make that small. Okay, import STL. All basically did is read all bytes and then made some lists. And let's see, it just kind of pulled it in. I'm not going to bother going through how all this worked. But yeah, that's pretty much how to import an STL. But what I'm trying to think was because there's STL ASCII and there's STL in byte format. And I can't remember which one this actually imports. I know I've written for both, and I'm pretty sure I made a video on that too, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Object file, I think in that same video where I described how to open an STL file, I showed how to do an object file. But of course, here's the reference again. You can look at that guy. Grid draw is where I just simply do the EMGU stuff, and that is right here. I pull an image canny, which kind of, what is it? What is image canny again? It kind of makes for better looking lines. And then I pull the hue lines binary with all this stuff from those, what are they called? Numeric up and downs. I pull those into doubles, and then I put those into the hue lines binary, and then that gives me lines, and I pull all the lines out, and then I draw them, and then put the image onto the picture box. So that wasn't too hard. Hue lines isn't terrible. OpenGL is. So upon OpenGL loading, real simple, we just got to set the clear color, which is the background color for black, and then we got to refresh it. Pretty simple, but you have to do it after the GL loads. Again, part of the tutorial. Now, all the rest of the stuff here is basically the mouse control. Upon mouse down, depends on the button you're clicking, left or right, how it actually functions. Will it move left or right? Will it move up and down? Will it move in and out, kind of thing? And how is it going to rotate? So this is some more math on that. So there's mouse down upon mouse movement, and mouse up, mouse wheel as well. Oh yeah, I scrolled it. Alright, and then here is the cool OpenGL Paint stuff. Like, this is where the real money of OpenGL is where you're actually drawing and defining the 3D stuff. So we're not going to go through too much of this stuff. It's pretty much simple, but right here is where I define that square, that white and multicolor square that didn't really seem to move yet rotated, because that's after the move, after the rotate, but before the move. And then here's where I define that border, that green and blue border. And then here is the real money stuff right here. This is actually taking all the points, putting them into an array, and then using a Vertex Array command instead of this gl.vertex3, and then you give it a position, and then you do the next vertex and the next vertex and the next vertex. You can get away with that for so long, but eventually if you get like thousands of points, it's just not going to work. And it's just not, well, it will work, it'll just work incredibly slowly. Whereas Vertex Array allows you to just dump thousands of points in, and then it just, bam, you have them all. And it's great. I mean, you can just do a lot of points with the Vertex Array. But you have to define that as a point type. Now, in this case where I had lines, you can define it as a line type. You just got to do the same thing over again, I guess. So, it's not too bad. And then, one more thing, the Vsync allows it to not go crazy with frame rate. If you don't have this, it goes crazy with frame rate. And then you take the GL control and swap buffers with this GL. Imagine GL is a buffer, and what you have displayed here in the OpenGL control is a buffer, and therefore you would then swap buffers. That's as best as I can explain it. I really don't know how else to say it, but that's the necessary command to get it to go in there. Alright, so then I have a timer tick. On every timer tick, invalidate the control. It just kind of keeps it refreshing and moving about. Here's something I don't really do too often. It's a structure. So I can say like min-max. So I have a border here. If I define border as a min-max, then I have to have somewhere in my program a structure telling me what min-max is. And so a min-max is something that has a x-min, an x-max, y-min, y-max, z-min, z-max. And so then when I call a border, I know it has a property of z-max, and it is a single. And a single is a floating point, I'm pretty sure. Let me just make sure. So don't, yeah, floating point integer. Alright, I didn't forget. Alright, so then the track bar scrolls. The big track bar moves the big border about, and then the second track bar moves in and out the blue border. And then we invalidate, and then we redraw in case we need to redraw that picture with all the points inside of it. Alright, and upon form load, we're going in reverse order here because form load's at the bottom. Alright, just simply putting some stuff into some stuff, and we're drawing the picture box white. That's all we're really doing. Let's see, grid buttons. Oh, okay. In case I want to change from lines to points, this would be the button I click to do that. And so that's pretty easy. And the numeric up and downs, if I change those numbers for the hue lines, then I want to update my grid draw, which was the picture box. So on any of those changing, call grid draw. Simple enough. Push button 3. Line search, right? Yeah. Right? Yes, because I did line search on a timer. And that's why I could see it scroll across. It's kind of like an animation type method of doing something. But I start the timer. I set some stuff like T-bar is 0, it starts at 0. T-bar 2 only has a width of 1, so it only grabs a small percentage. So it doesn't grab like big chunks. And then I create some new stuff. And then here's the timer itself doing its thing, where it just grabs all those points, applies the hue lines again with the canny and the hue lines binary, and then dumps all that into points. And then there you go. It'll make all those stupid points for you. It didn't really seem to work out too well for me, but hopefully you've seen something in here that looks good for you. I mean, it's cool 3D stuff that I haven't really gone over too much, and it does it really stinking fast. Like here's an engine head, you can't tell it, but there is just a ton of points in this. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, this is a robot. Well, there's still tons of points in this as well, and it's so fast and so fluid, it's really quite nice. And so, I hope you get some sort of reference out of this program. Like I had much fun making it. So, anyways, have fun with that.